Hi, folks. I just wanted to let you know that this episode of The Larry Miller Show is brought to you by Blue Apron. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping. That's pretty good by going to blueapron.com/Larry. You will love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals from blueapron.com/Larry. And now, live from Level 5 Productions on the island of Milleronia, it's The Larry Miller Show. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and everyone who really wants free food. Hi, folks, and welcome back to the Larry Miller Show. I'm Larry Miller, but in a way, aren't we all? Yes, we are, by the way. And, it's just gorgeous today. We are not on Milleronia. We are back on the mainland, the Colonel and I, and I'll explain why later, because there's something to tell you about that. And, boy, though, it's a gorgeous day in spring and here in Southern California. And yes, that music makes me feel fabulous every time I hear it. I love our theme, thanks to Colonel Jeff, and he loves it too. And, of course, that's the Cab Calloway Orchestra and the Carrie Fisher Dancers, featuring boy tenor John Hay asking the musical question, has no one gotten that viola player a lozenge yet? First of all, I have to tell you, John, that Colonel Jeff and I are both really happy someone used the word lozenge. That's not a word you hear a lot anymore. And it's a terrific word. It's a fun word. I think Smith Brothers cough drops were lozenges, weren't they? And on the box there, it said lozenge. Lozenges. And, that's number one, John. I'm glad you brought that word in there. And by the way, my friend Hiram Caston, terrific comic, always used to, when he was playing, say, a really religious Jewish show in a theater somewhere, and all the men had beards, of course, and he'd always get up on the stage there, and he'd always point someone out and just say, "Oh, by the way, I love your cough drops." And that's a pretty good joke. Anyway, though, thanks for asking, John. Has no one gotten that viola player a lozenge yet? Briefly, no. I can be more succinct, but for now I'm going to stick with no. No, John, no one, not even a friend or girlfriend or family member has gotten that viola player a lozenge. And you'd think someone would have, by the way, but no. So, I don't know whether, they could have gotten him anything, but no one's gotten him anything, and he still coughs, and he wishes someone would. It could be Smith. In fact, I would think Smith Brothers would be great for him. Their cough drops, you could just pop one in until your third grade teacher just said, "Mr. Miller, did you bring one for everyone?" And, of course, those were the days when you couldn't just make a little comical retort like, "No, fatso, I didn't." But in any case, we're happy here. And thank you, John. Terrific question. But no, that viola player still needs something to just loosen that throat a little. And by Blue Apron. That's right, Blue Apron. Folks, something, not all ingredients are created equal. That's just the truth. Fresh, high-quality ingredients taste better and are better for you. So it's important to know where your food comes from. For less than $10 per meal, Blue Apron delivers sensational recipes along with pre-portioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. Blue Apron knows that when you cook with incredible ingredients, you make incredible meals. So they set the highest quality standards for their community of artisanal suppliers. I love that phrase. Family-run farms, fisheries, and ranchers, whatever it is, they do a good job on it. And whether it's pork chops and miso butter, or spicy shrimp coconut curry, either of those, Blue Apron is bringing you the best. Thanks again to Blue Apron for supporting our show. Check out this week's menu and you get your first 3 meals free with free shipping. That alone, I'm telling you, that's pretty good. By going to blueapron.com/Larry. Once again, that's blueapron.com/Larry. I like them. And because they like us also. They not only do great stuff with food, but that's the thing about life, isn't it, folks? Frankly, as long as if someone comes by and says, you know something, I really like you, let me give you some free stuff, you'd think, wow, that's pretty good. That's a good start to a friendship. And that brings us to my favorite part of the show, the joke of the week. And, the Colonel and I like this one. We got a good giggle out of it. And I hope you do too. A teenage boy goes into his church for confessional. And he gets in the booth there, and the priest says to him, yes, go ahead. And he says, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I was with a girl on a date, and I was loose with her. And the priest says, Joey Pagano, is that you? And he says, yes, Father. Yes, it's me. I'm sorry to hear you say that, Joey. Now, who was the girl? Who was the girl you were with? And Joey says, I can't tell you that, Father. I don't think that'd be right. And the priest says, Joey, I'll tell you what's right. And you know what? You tell me who that girl was. And was it Tina Minetti? And Joey says, Father, please, I can't. My lips are sealed on all of this. And the priest says, Teresa Mazzarelli, was that it? Was that it, Joey? And he says, Father, please, I can't. I'd feel low if I just passed that on to you. And how about Nina Capelli, Joey? Was that it? Was she the one? And Joey says again, Father, I don't feel right just even being on this topic with you, and I can't tell you who. And the priest says, how about Kathy Piriano? Was it Kathy Piriano? I've always been a little suspicious of her. And Joey says, Father, please, why don't we just drop it? Rosa D'Angelo, that's got to be the one. Tell me now, Joey. Tell me now and let me get in touch with them. And Joey says, No, I can't, Father. I'm not going to tell you anything about the girls' names. And the priest says, all right, but I'm still going to punish you here. You get 4 months without being altar boy. And then gives him a couple of things to say. All right, now leave. And Joey leaves the confession and goes outside. And one of his friends is standing there. And his friend says to him, what'd you get? And Joey says, 4 months vacation and 5 good leads. That's a pretty good joke, isn't it? And I was telling the Colonel also, that's a well-written punchline, just even rhythmically in the syllables, 4 months vacation and 5 good leads. And that's like the word lozenge. Where do you hear the word lead anymore? A good lead. And anyway, we got a kick out of that joke, and I hope you do too. Plus, also the Colonel and I were saying, they're well written because those names sound real. Names are hard when you're writing a script or anything else. They always sound made up. Names you make up always sound like Bob Wilson. It doesn't quite sound like a real human. But these were great. Joey Pagano, Tina Minetti, Teresa Mazzarelli. I mean, they all sound real. Nina Capelli, Kathy Piriano, and Rosa D'Angelo. I mean, that sounds like real people to me, and to Colonel Jeff, too. But what'd you get? 4 months vacation and 5 good leads. And that brings me to my second favorite part of the show, the Poetry Corner. Folks. Well, if there's anything better than a good joke or a good lead, I think it's, a good poem. It really shows you how to look at something, and maybe better than you looked at it before. And this is a poem by the wonderful Robert Williams Service, and I have read things of his before. And the title of it is Just a Question Mark. So here we go. Just a Question Mark by Robert Williams Service. If you had the choice of two women to wed, though of course the idea is quite absurd, and the first, from her heels to her dainty head, was charming in every sense of the word, and yet in the past, I grieve to state, she never had been exactly straight. And the second, she was beyond all cavil, a model of virtue, I must confess, and yet, alas, she was dull as the devil, and rather a dowd in the way of dress, though what she was lacking in wit and beauty, she more than made up for in sense of duty. Now, suppose you must wed, and make no blunder, and either would love you and let you win her. Which of the two would you choose, I wonder, the stolid saint or the sparkling sinner? Now, that's a good poem, isn't it? And I was saying to the Colonel before, that's one of the great things about poetry. They make you think. A good poem really makes you consider, well, the question, well, how do you like that? That's why the title was just a question mark. And, well, how do you like that? Which of the two would you choose, I wonder, the stolid saint or the sparkling sinner? Well, that's a pretty good question, too, folks. I don't know. I said to the Colonel before we went on the air, of course, I just said to him, I think I might marry the nice one, the one with really high morals, who wasn't that interesting and was dull and not pretty. But then once you do that, well, then after a week or two, you kill her. And then go marry the other one, the sparkling sinner. But all teasing aside, that's a great poem by Robert Williams Service. And I hope you think so too, folks. Pass it on if you do. And that brings me to my third favorite part of the show, MMM, Triple M, the Magic Movie Moment. Oh boy, and is this ever a great movie? And it had the two folks, well, I mentioned before, great folks, the great Cab Calloway, the great Carrie Fisher, who, of course, just, as you know, passed on just a few months ago. But it's a terrific movie, and I saw it just alone in bed with the two dogs, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But over the weekend, it's from 1980, The Blues Brothers. And, folks, you know, I don't know if you've seen that. You have to have seen that. If you haven't, see it. It's a great movie. It never gets less than great. It's fun in every way. Directed by John Landis, the great John Landis, and who did Animal House as well. And so he knows something about being funny. Starring, oh, what a cast. John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Carrie Fisher, Kathleen Freeman, Cab Calloway, James Brown, Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin, Henry Gibson. Steven Spielberg is in this. And I'll tell you where and why. Frank Oz, Twiggy, Jeff Morris, and so many others, too. It's a great cast. And what a good movie. Boy, folks. Steven Spielberg, by the way, just to let you know, plays the county assessor who's collecting all the taxes at the end of the movie there. Or when they really go on, they're just completing their final part of the mission. And I didn't know that till I read the cast on the internet here. I said, well, how do you like that? That's always kind of fun. Well, how do you like that? And of course it was. Well, that's from 1980, and that's 37 years ago. So if you're wondering, when you see it again, and you should, if you're wondering, boy, I guess Steven Spielberg looks pretty young there. Well, it's 37 years ago. We all looked young then. Boy, folks, it's a great movie. And the magic movie moment for me today, there really are a lot of magic movie moments in this movie. there are terrific moments in this movie, and they're all a tiny bit tongue in cheek, and they never fail. They never go over the top. They never go overboard. They never do anything wrong. John Landis told a great story here. He was a great captain of this ship, and the scene though, and it's a big scene from the movie that was a magic movie moment to me always, but especially when I saw it on Sunday in bed with the dogs, is the music scene when the Blues Brothers and their band are playing just, well, they just see the place up there, and John Belushi says, yeah, that's it. They're just trying to get some money together. And that's at Big Bob's Country and Western Bar. I don't know if that's the exact name of it, but it's terrific. And the owner is Jeff Morris, a great actor. And folks, we go into this bar with John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, and they tell their bandmates there, okay, get the equipment out and start bringing it in. And it's a pretty big place with long tables that everyone sits at, and I think, as Colonel Jeff reminded me, the woman behind the bar, the bartender, who has her hair sprayed nicely in a kind of a big twirling beehive of red hair, I think it is, and she hands them each a beer, Belushi and Aykroyd, and so John just says to her, so can you tell me, ma'am, what kind of music does this place usually have? And she says, well, we have both kinds, country and western. And she delivers that just beautifully with this nice smile. And it's a good line, a funny line. But that sort of starts that scene. And then the owner comes over, Jeff Morris playing the owner, and he plays it beautifully. Everyone in this movie plays the part beautifully. They don't go over the top. And you like them. You like all of them. And I like him in this too. And they, John and Dan sort of wander on through the club up to where the stage is, and their fellows are already setting up there. But as they look at it, they said, chicken wire? Because the stage is covered with, chicken wire. And I can tell you, I've had that a couple of times, by the way, in jobs I was glad to have. But as soon as you see a stage covered in chicken wire, the first thing you think, which is correct, is this must be a bit of a crazy place if they need to protect the band and the performers from things being thrown. But you don't really care. It's a great start of the scene, and they go up there, and folks, that place fills up. Very well cast again, this movie. Everyone in the audience is in their 30s or 40s. Or a little older, and they have, jeans and flannel shirts on, from all the ranches and farms in the area, and baseball caps, same thing, from all the ranches and farms in the area there, and they're there with their wives or girlfriends, and, the band plays their opening song, which is, I think, a Wilson Pickett song, I think. I can't remember, and I just saw it a couple of days ago, but, they play it, and folks, that audience doesn't even breathe. They hate that song so much, and they can't believe that these fellas have played it. And halfway through, Jeff Morris, the owner, walks over and just puts his hand on all the light switches, turns everything off, turns the music off, turns the lights off, and these people are throwing everything at that chicken wire they have, and it's not happy throws. Beer cans, beer bottles, liquor bottles, everything else, rocks, and they don't know what to do on the stage there. So the band quickly just gathers together there. They just lean in and to each other. What are we going to do now? And I think it's Dan Aykroyd who suggests, "Hey, wait a minute. Remember that song we used to play, the theme song from Rawhide?" And they say, yeah, I remember that. And okay, hit it. Let's go right into it right now. Just go into it. And that's a great song, that Rawhide theme. And when you hear it in this movie, you think it's far better than you ever noticed before. And it is. You hear that Ding, 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 rolling, rolling, rolling. Keep those doggies rolling, or them doggies rolling. Rawhide. And they sing the whole thing. Get 'em up, move 'em out, head 'em up. And the place goes nuts. They love it. And I love it too. And you love it too. You'll just dig it, the whole thing. They sing that whole song. They play the whole thing. And now there are more things being thrown at the chicken wire, but it's happy throws. Everyone is just so happy. And folks, one of the fellas gets up and dances on the table. These are big, long, picnic table type affairs. And this one fella gets up there and he's dancing as they're playing the song. And folks, other people get up and they're dancing on the tables too, with the same outfits on. You feel so good. And folks, when they finish that song, rawhide, rah, rawhide, with the bullwhip Belushi gets crack, rawhide, and the place cheers, goes nuts. And then, well, what do the fellas do? Then they go immediately into Stand By Your Man, which is, by golly, I can't even remember. Was that a Dolly Parton song? Or was that? Sorry, I can't remember, folks, but it's a great song. Sometimes it hurts to be a woman, and it's all these guys singing that. Tammy Wynette, the Colonel just said. Thanks, pal. It's a great song. Stand By Your Man. And folks, now the audience, they play it well, very well. And now the audience is getting very sentimental just listening to that song, which, by the way, is a great song also. It's, again, when you listen to it, it's almost for the first time you think, what a good song. What good words. What a wonderful sentiment. And there are people in the audience now there on their seats at those picnic tables, and folks, they show good editing, good shooting. They show the woman's wife is leaning against the guy's shoulder, and they're both so happy listening to this song. Another one, there's a husband with his arm around his wife, and they look at each other, and it's acted in just the right way. They're happy to be together, and they're glad they're in love and they got married. And it's all because of this song. It's wonderful. It's all because of that song, and they finished that one too. The place, again, is half teared up, and they applaud again and cheer. Oh, how wonderful. And then it's a good cut, good movie making. The good cut to the end of the show. And the place is about 95% empty in a good way, because they played a good long show. They played they're just, so they're redoing just the end of their Rawhide song. Rawhide. And then Dan Aykroyd says something into the mic like, well, folks, you can go wherever you want, but you can't stay here. And we've had a great time, and thank you, and the hooray, and everybody who's left is just, starts to get up. And, well, the rest of the movie continues from there, because Jeff Morris, the owner, comes up and says, well, they owe him $300, because the salary they were getting was $200. And they drank so much beer, they owe him $300. And they say, Aykroyd and Belushi say to the owner, well, we thought the beer was free. The lady behind the bar just gave them to us when we walked in. And it's a great shot of just Morris, just big smile, and he's just shaking his head. No. Doesn't even say anything. No, not free. And then he walks them out, and they say, okay, well, we've got the money in the car. And what happens from there, it's all wonderful. What happens from there, the movie continues, and all sorts of good things happen. But folks, that became a magic movie moment for me, I think, when I first saw it. And I've seen it many times since. And I hope you like it too. If you haven't seen it, see it. The Blues Brothers from 1980, directed by John Landis, starring John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Carrie Fisher, Kathleen Freeman, Cab Calloway, James Brown, Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin. So many great actors. Henry Gibson, Steven Spielberg, Frank Oz, Twiggy, Jeff Morris. they're all great. If you haven't seen it, seen it. If you haven't seen it, see it. And you'll smile the same way I was lying in bed with the dogs. And that was one of the best times a man can have, and that's why I want to tell you about this, because this past weekend, the reason we're not in Milleronia today and that we're back on the mainland in Southern California is that my wife went with her best friend Susie on Friday, just a few days ago, to the Chumash Indian Gambling Resort. And it's just north of Santa Barbara out here. And by the way, next to the University of Solvang. Now, I know I've told you about that place before because that's where Dr. Chris is now studying, getting his doctorate there in clog dancing. But that place is real, the University of Solvang. I've been there. My wife and I and our kids have been there. By the way, if you say, well, why? I don't know. I don't have the right answer for that. We were at a hotel down a little in Santa Barbara, but we decided just to take a ride after we checked out a little further north and see what we'd see. And we saw a town called Solvang. And in that town, or just outside it, is the University of Solvang. And just outside the University of Solvang is the Chumash Indian Gambling Resort. And that's where my wife and her friend Susie went on Friday. They were both going to cut work, and they wanted to just go up there. They've done that sort of thing together before. My wife likes it, and so does Susie. They've gone before for one night. They go to Las Vegas, and they get a room together, and the same thing at the Chumash place. It's not that far, so they drove up. Takes about 3 hours to get up there, and it's a nice drive, too, up the coast of California. And I'm telling you, folks, they had the best time. They gambled and drank, and come to think of it, that was about it. I mean, if you don't, but that's all you need, really. Really, if you just, sure, they gambled and drank and had a nice meal in the restaurant, got all dressed up, all dolled up, and, well, gambled and drank some more. But that's what they wanted. You could take a walk around the hotel. And she said it's in a really nice area, so you can walk outside. And they had a terrific time. They stayed up late and got up late and had breakfast at the place there and got home here, back to the house on Saturday, around 6 or 7 at night on Saturday. So so how long was it? 27 hours, 28 hours for the trip? But it was a good trip. And they had a really good time, and she came home. She was tired and ready to shower and get into bed and just let a big breath out and say, how do you like that? I was just up at the Chumash Indian Resort. I think I've mentioned this before, by the way, but I've never understood why none of the Indian gambling places all around America are named for tribes that we'd know. I mean, there's no Navajo resort. There's no Apache gambling casino. There's no Cherokee place. There's nothing you've ever seen, really, or know about by name. It's all names like, well, let's go to the Pechanga tribe. Okay, and they are, yes, it's the Pechanga tribe, and it's, it's not a big tribe. There never is. And the chief and couple of his fellows there made a deal with some very knowledgeable gambling people from back east, like Chief Tony Soprano. I think they make a good deal for themselves, and they're making good dough now. Lord knows. So okay, good. So there's something comical about that, but my wife sure had a good time with the Chumash, if that's the right way to pronounce it. And they made a good resort. Nothing like they have on the billboards, by the way. I always wondered about that, too. You see a young couple walking through a beautiful field of corn or wheat, and it looks just, lovely. But I want to say, what does that have to do with blackjack? And as far as I can tell, nothing. But that's all right. My wife and Susie had a good time, and they didn't need to walk through any cornfields to do it. let me know and let us know here if you do the same sort of thing. And by the way, one of my kids at the same time left on that Friday also because it was his senior weekend for his high school. So they left, the senior class. It's only about 64 kids, I think, something like that. And they left from school Friday afternoon, and they all got on the same bus and with a couple of teachers to guide them and guard them. How much that happens, I don't know. I don't want to ask. But they had a terrific time. They were away 2 nights, both Friday and Saturday, and he got back Sunday afternoon about 3. And, well, same kind of thing. He came dragging in, showered up, and got into bed just like my wife. Out cold all night, but didn't have to get up Monday because Monday was senior skip day. So, no school for him. And you know what? I wanted to hear about the trip. Hey, what'd you do? And did you go anywhere? And did you go up? It was kind of a campground and something like that. But you know what? I still have no idea. I don't know whether they went fishing or hunting, or I guess that kind of thing doesn't happen an awful lot in schools today. Yeah, they went hunting. They set traps. But you know what? He had a terrific time and a good big hunk of sleep. And the point is, that left me to have the best time a man can have. That means it's just you. I'm in the house alone with the doggies. And so on Friday I said, gee, how do you like that? It's just me. And I think probably every guy just has, it's a stupid thing, you know, but the first thought is, wow, so if I wanted, I could just call some hookers. I don't even know. I wouldn't. First of all, I'm not going to do that. And second of all, I'm not even sure what that means. You know, how do you, I wouldn't even know whom to call or, hello? Oh, hello, Jesse. Are you free tonight? You know, I don't even know what you'd say. I never knew it in real life. I never knew quite what to say to women in bars. Well, I fell in love and got married. I must have known something right. But I'm telling it, so no hookers, no friends. You know, I guess I could do all sorts of things. But, you know, everything you'd think of doing for 30 seconds, you don't do. Well, I thought I'd go to Ralph's, go shopping, and just pick up a bunch of stuff for me and the dogs. But I didn't do that. What I did was, heck, I was still wearing the clothes I worked out in Friday morning at around 8. And they weren't all messed up, but you're in gym shorts and white socks and a T-shirt. And, well, so what's wrong with that? If you're a guy and you're all alone, it's, again, me and the dogs. And I could walk down the hall with a big glass of water with ice in it and get back into the bed, and the dogs get back in with me. And by the way, wherever you go in the house, you can do anything, meaning, you know, you can, well, burp, you know, in the hallway there. And I did. And there was no one to say, you know, every so often, my wife, if I've done that around 10 or 11 at night, and my wife, I can hear my wife's voice from downstairs, you know, calling one of the kids' names. Is that you? And I said, oh, no, honey, it's me. And she said, yeah, I thought so. You know, so what she just heard was her loving, sophisticated, worldly husband just go, bah, you know. And but that's the best time a man can have alone. Do whatever you want. I didn't go shopping every couple of hours throughout the whole weekend. I thought to myself, okay, this is silly. I've got to go shopping and get a bunch of stuff. Don't you need stuff? So I said to the doggies, you know, all right, I've got to head out, go to Ralph's. I'll pick us up some stuff, things you want, things I want. But it happened every time I'd slip my topsiders on and just walk toward the kitchen there and into the kitchen just to get ready to go. And as soon as I got to the kitchen, I would just look at the dogs who were just wagging their tails and following me, and I'd just say, yeah, you know what? I think maybe the best idea is to just go back to bed. And I did. I felt tired, and I just felt, let's just go back to bed. And I did. So I turned around, went back to the bedroom. The doggies followed me, and they got back to bed too. And boy, we watched some things. And by the way, the Blues Brothers was one of them. I must have seen 4 or 5 movies. And then turned it off, thought, well, maybe I should just take a nap and take a little, 5-minute nap, but then you wake up again and just say, well, let me see what's on. And you do. You say, you look for what's on. Folks, I am glad. First of all, thank God they all went and came back safely. And my wife was happy, and I'm glad. And my kid was happy, and I'm glad. And, I texted his brother, who's the Marine, and he's happy, and I was glad. And you know what? He said, what are you doing, Dad? And I said, I'm having the best time a man can have. Watch shows like Bar Rescue and all the shows that he and I like, for instance. And the doggies are just thrilled. They're right down at the end of the bed there, just plopped down, curled up, and they're out cold, too. So every 2 hours I'd start to go shopping, never made it. Just ate the leftovers of anything that was there in the house. Anything. But you know what, folks? That's a good lesson, too, because that was plenty. And I don't need more, and you don't need more. And I had the best time, and I had such a good time with Blues Brothers. Well, I wanted to tell you about it. I know these things, and you do, too. We know the same things. Homer is Homer, and Pluto is a planet. So remember, folks, as always, if you walked out of bed today and had a job to go to and a home to come back to and someone there who cares about you, folks, the game's over and you've won. And that's the truest thing I know. Be well, watch a good movie, and don't be afraid to get out of bed.